Welcome to The Edge of NFT, the podcast that brings you the top 1% of Web3 today and what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts of the business side and also the human element of how Web3 is changing the way we interact with the things we love. This podcast is for the dreamers, disruptors, and doers who are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
Hey, Web3 Curious friends. Today's episode was shot live in Nashville, Tennessee at Bitcoin Nashville. I want to give a shout out to our two sponsors, BitLayer and Portal. BitLayer is the first Bitcoin security equivalent layer 2 based on the BitVM paradigm. Portal is the bridgeless interoperability protocol on Bitcoin that utilizes Bitscaler, which is the only trustless multi-party channel solution for scaling Bitcoin for DeFi and beyond. On today's show, you'll hear from three guests. First, we have comedian TJ Miller, who discusses how he launched the first ever Ordinal project minted on the Bitcoin blockchain by a comedian. Second, we speak with Chris Snook and Scott Page from Block Cityfi to discuss how they are bringing supercharged ordinals to the market via B-Pills. Last, we speak with Yago from Sovryn, which is building a scalable network of rollups that share Bitcoin's security. It's time to cue the intro.
Hi everyone, this is Josh Krieger, co-host of Edge of NFT, live at BTC Nashville. We're actually hanging out at the Hack House, where we're proud to be a media partner. A lot of fun going on here throughout the week. Because, you know, as everyone knows, the action when it comes to blockchain events is not always at the core conference. It's at all those side events. And there's a lot of cool stuff happening. We had a chance last night to see the one and only Scott Page, who's here with us, as well as Chris Snook. Scott performed, a really special set, sort of kicking off sort of the next phase of Synthopia. We'll talk a little bit, Scott, about one of your big projects. It's great to have you on the show again, man. It's been a minute.
Thank you very much, and I'm always happy to be with you, my friend. This is one of my heroes in the space, right? So,
the feeling's mutual.
Really, man. We've been doing this for a while, since NFT LA, man.
Yeah, back in the day. Started the show March 2021. I think you're one of the first guests on the show, maybe like April or May.
That's
it's
right.
all a blur back then.
I know.
Right?
It's fun to be with the OGs. Yeah. So, last night we did a thing where I'm a co-founder of a project, an NFT project called Synthopia, and it's actually been pretty successful so far. It's about a year old. We've sold 3
in the bear market.
In the bear market,
yeah.
We've sold 3 collections out totally, and we're getting ready to launch the biosynth token, and that's coming up. Did a pre-launch, it's just started on that. But last night we did a thing because we're kind of honoring my moon project that I did, which is kind of interesting. I was picked as one of the 222 artists to put their works on this special hard drive that's designed to last 1 billion years. How they figured that out, I have no idea, but it's supposed to last 1 billion years. Science, crazy stuff. And it actually went up on a Falcon 9. It's called the Odysseus. It was about 3 months ago, something like that. It actually landed on the moon. So I put 7,000 pieces on the moon. A part of those pieces on the moon were, or digital twins, let me make that clear because it's on hard drive, was Synthopia. And last night we kind of celebrating the moon. And also inside of my crazy piece that I put up there, I put up Pink Floyd, Supertramp, Toto, Quincy Jones, Lady Diana, Spinal Tap, Monty Python, all these people, and they're all built into this piece. And last night we were kind of celebrating, mashing the fact of our launch of our biosynth token, and also the golden mullet, which is the piece you see on the stage last night.
So a lot of the rest of the show is going to be framed around the mullet.
Yeah.
And of course, if we're going to talk about mullets, being the curious chap that I am, I want to do a little bit of research.
Yep.
So did you guys know that the mullet actually traces back to Greek warriors that wore their hair long and short in the front to keep their hair out of the face when they were having protection for the neck? So they're doing their fighting thing.
Well, that's a funny story because that was the same way I approached it with music. I was working with Diana.
You were a warrior.
I was a warrior.
Stage, yeah.
It was so funny because when I was playing with Diana Ross, I noticed her hair. And I said, geez, I want hair like that, but I didn't want to have it in my eyes. So I ended up you did a mullet, and actually that was early mullet. That was actually right around when what was it, Billy Ray Cyrus. So I was one of the early guys.
You were the one that was like prehistoric mullet.
Prehistoric mullet.
So what are we talking? Because apparently ChatGPT is helping out here. It became more popular in the 70s and 80s. So David Bowie, Beastie Boys.
Yep.
So when were you like deep into the mullet phase?
My my mullet was, I think I started that in 1980. Oh my God, I think maybe 85, 86, 84 or something like
So
that.
definitely a pioneer.
Oh yeah, I was
in the
very
mullet-
early.
in the
Yeah,
mullet world.
might have been 83. Yeah, I think it might have been Supertramp days is when I started. I can't remember.
So, so Chris, I know you had some inspiration behind this project, and you're building the tech to sort of support this ambitious sort of roadmap. How did you guys get together?
We actually, funny enough, we met at a family office conference about two Februarys ago,
Yep.
and didn't know we were going to be there. Larry Namer, who's a business partner of mine, and another venture with the NFTs, had moderated a panel and invited me to come speak. He said Scott Page is going to be there. I said, cool. And then Scott and I just hit it off.
Yeah.
After we delivered the panel, we just kind of hit it off, and then we ran into each other a couple more times. And so as we got to know each other, I started to learn his story, which he talks a lot about. And so as his story, and what he was trying to do, it became very aware. He had big ideas for a new business model around fan experiences and fandom. And like a lot of artists and like a lot of ones that maybe got buried in this last winter and some of the things that happened in the NFT market, it's quite frankly just, it fell short, right? Like the business model that is right for people like Scott and their fans and the circular economies that can be created, we haven't yet delivered on that promise from a technical standpoint. And then
Not consistently.
Not consistently. And then what we have with the technical, then we created a marketplace that violated that, right? So we say, we don't need you to pay the royalties anymore.
Yeah. That was a great boom from NFTs, and then it's like gone.
Yeah.
Like that.
And I think, and again, if you're someone who's an artist and you think about it through that artist experience, like that becomes a real fit and start, right? You kind of get going, you pour into it, you get excited, and then depending on where that curve you are, some of them monetized it and got lucky.
Yeah.
Others came in late and then just got hammered, and then it's like it destroys the confidence in it. So as we look at Bitcoin as the settlement layer, a global settlement layer that's indisputable, that's bigger, that's unforgeable, and all those benefits, and now that Taproot has happened and you can do ordinals and inscriptions on it, quite frankly, ordinals need to be better and they need to do more, right? They provide a lot of promise similarly, but we saw it as we have to be able to have these things do the things that will create no rugs, right? No rug being pulled. And so,
Well, I think the immutability of ordinals is one step in that direction.
it is. And then what we did was essentially with Block City, and now with partners like BitFans, who sits on top of our integration, and then Scott as kind of the publisher creator first use case, what we're bringing to market is what we call supercharged ordinals, which will ultimately become a new standard of them. And what powers that is a thing we call B-pills. And B-pills are basically Bitcoin passive income layer specification. It sits between the L2 and the platform or the interface with customers.
Okay.
And what it enables you to infuse a Bitcoin peg, for lack of a better word, and then yields into the ordinal. And how it works is, instead of us taking money in, infusing Bitcoin yield, and we're promising you yield, and then giving you a altcoin in existence, right, on top of it, the ordinal itself acts as the native token. So if you can imagine, I inscribe Scott's mullet, which is what we're going to do. I inscribe Scott's golden mullet as a masterwork on Bitcoin layer 1, right? It's an ordinal. And now on stacks, in this case, what happens is B-pills will infuse and inscribe a new inscription that has Bitcoin finality, but that is lower gas and is permanent. And it points to that ordinal and says that ordinal has 10,000 BTC or 10 BTC or 20,000 Satoshis, whatever the infusion is, on it. And so now the floor price of that ordinal is no longer based on the extrinsic market value or premium.
It's asset backed.
It's asset backed. So it becomes a macro asset versus a speculative gamble. And when you're talking about something like Scott, here's the business model. So he could sell tickets, he could sell access, he could do all kinds of things. But what if I owned a piece of his story, which is what this is? 7,000 pieces on my moon, pictures I've never shared with anyone before, turned into collaborative pieces of art with other artists. And now I build this ecosystem of creation. And then I mint those ordinals on layer 1. So my asset is non-custodial. I never have to worry about whether it's in my wallet or your wallet to earn that yield. So I buy the ordinal, in this case the mullet, and that mullet will generate somewhere between 3 to 9% yield on an ongoing basis through a mix of decentralized stacking pools on stacks and a decentralized lending pool that we're creating in our roadmap. But the initial thing means, okay, so now when that yield is earned, it's being earned in my native wallet. I don't have to give it to anybody. I don't have to lose custody of it. And if I want to recharge it, I can treat it like a proxy savings account. So now I can take my digital twin of the golden wallet and I can charge it up with however much Bitcoin I want and earn passive yield and stack sats. So now in bear markets, it's stacking sats for me. So the ordinal becomes a vehicle for proxy savings of Bitcoin.
And remind me again where that yield comes from?
So the initial yield comes from the Stacks decentralized mining pool. So there's a decentralized mining pool on Stacks, and we participate in that, and then essentially the yield is generated from that. And Block City takes a wholesale percentage of that, and then the rest of it goes into the artist, the creator of the platform. It's a split. So in a simple use case where the average is going to normalize out from what we anticipate is about 5% to the holder. So if I buy the asset and it's sitting in my wallet, I'm the bearer asset, I'm getting 5% yield on that peg, right? As it just sits there every 2 weeks, because that's how the distribution works on that POX pool. And then Scott is getting about 1%. And then the platform's getting the rest. And so now, if you think about it from, what if I sold tickets to an event? So now I could sell tickets to an event, and I could say, my super fans, there's 1,000 seats. And I'm going to charge 500 of it, but I want to gamify it. So out of that 500 that you pay to buy that ticket, I'm going to leave 250 on the asset in Bitcoin. So now he can start to gamify his whitelist and say, I'm going to throttle 70% IV, meaning I'm going to leave 70% of the ticket price on the asset if you buy it before this date. I'm going to say 50% on the asset if you buy it between this date and this date. So if you're a conference, I'm going to say 30% if you buy it a month out. And so now you're gamifying it, but what happens is after I've used that stub, it still earns yield. Now, if I sell my stub to someone else, like if I flip it to you, you're going to pay for whatever you think the collectible value is, and all the earning power goes to you now. Because I can't remove the peg. So once it's on there, it can't be removed. Scott's getting his 1% regardless. So if we can show him how to sell $2 million worth of anything, and he's getting 1% yield on that, his TVL is now $2 million. And then he can incentivize his fans. He can airdrop tokens to his fans. He can give away free ordinals and say, here's your ordinal. It's part of my story. I'm going to be in Palm Springs. Anyone who has 500 TVL on their asset can show up and have beer with me, show up and come take a picture with me. And so now he's incentivizing his fans to save on their asset in Bitcoin.
Well, Scott, that's really fascinating. So for you, obviously this is innovative, but with any sort of new technology like this, there's risk.
Always risk.
Right. What have you sort of considered in terms of the challenges here, and how are you sort of thinking about how to address them?
Well, if you're talking about the yielding, or are you just talking about the challenge? Well, I mean, the whole thing's
this is fundamentally a new concept, right?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, look, you've been pushing the boundaries of innovation.
I love that. Yeah.
Technologist and futurist for as long as I've known you.
Yep.
Yes.
But this, I mean, where could things go wrong? And
it never goes wrong with technology, right? Never. It's always perfect.
And how are you sort of thinking about sort of this as your broader vision?
Well, I look at this like, especially with this particular piece, I look at this as I'm looking for a business partner to talk about creating this business, taking it to the next level, right?
Yeah.
So we're still inventing. It's still that, but by infusing this in, I think we can start to show that there's ways that we can create circular economies like we never had before. I mean, that's the beautiful part. There's always risk. And I mean, I don't know all the risk yet. I mean, if Bitcoin goes down, I mean, that's...
Well, I guess
different layers of risk.
So I guess there's
so on the technical risk, because there's risk at different levels, right? So let's break that out. It's a really good question. So on the technical risk, what B-Pills has done is taken the best aspects of stablecoin frameworks, right? Which is liquidity, right? High volume. But remove the negative ones, which is lack of transparency and counterparty risk. So how do we remove lack of transparency and counterparty risk? Well, because the only token involved in this is the native inscription on Bitcoin layer 1. So there is no other token. You don't have to wonder about another token. There's no trade there.
Right. Yeah.
The inscription that's happening here. So the inscription that's happening here on the L2 is just referencing the peg that has now been pointed and infused onto that token. And so as that grows, you're creating what we believe will be a new way to, similar to how Polygon solved some of the gas price issues.
Is there any potential that this can depeg?
No, once it's infused, I mean, it's still an inscription. So both are inscriptions with Bitcoin finality. So fundamentally, no.
Fundamentally, like the biggest risk is that Bitcoin's price goes down.
Goes to zero.
Yeah.
Like it has to go to zero, because like if you believe it's going to go to zero, then it could be the biggest risk.
Fundamentally, I mean, for those of us in the industry, we feel like the chance of that is as high as the chances that gold's price goes to zero, right?
Well, and also when it goes down, if you understand, and if again, the beauty of art, right, is if I'm telling people to hodl a Bitcoin, well, you have to be in the game a while to ride the waves of the roller coaster, right? We all know that. Now, many of us have, or many people have. But if you're giving someone something they love that's access to an artist, they're not quitting on that, right?
Yeah.
So now that asset is solving the whole I have to understand Bitcoin thing, because I don't have to wonder if I like Scott.
Yeah, it creates some interesting stickiness that wasn't there before.
That's the main thing. It's the stickiness, because we can create that, again, the circular economy aspect of we can work and build together.
And if Bitcoin's down, now his story is, hey guys, thanks for being here. And by the way, we're stacking sats, baby, because the assets that each one of his fans have are their assets. They're not his asset anymore.
They're kind of like mullet sats.
Mullet sats, exactly.
I think that's what we're talking about.
You're getting like a fragment of the hair of his mullet.
Yeah, right. So tonight's one milestone in that journey.
This is the beginning, yes.
So there's a performance. You're doing a little intimate performance tonight.
Oh, yeah. So I've brought my friend Thomas Claxton over, and Ada Patronik, who's an incredible violin player, and we're going to do, and our brother Rick, and we're going to do a little unplugged bunch of
Rick
Pink
from
Floyd.
Fans is like, he's been rehearsing till 4.
Yeah, he's been working on the song.
I've been having dreams of Pink Floyd, because I hear this he's not all hours of the day making sure he's ready for tonight. It's really awesome.
Since this stuff was on the moon, I got to be the guy that put Pink Floyd on the moon, which is kind of interesting, right? Especially with Dark Side.
Yeah, that wasn't on your bucket list, but it was pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, right? It's an interesting thing.
Wasn't on mine, at least.
So we're going to play tonight. We're going to do a bunch of Pink Floyd tunes, kind of unplugged in a very interesting way. So it should be fun.
Maybe about 50 people.
Yeah,
and the point of tonight is to have conversations around the business model, let people know that this mode is available. You could bid on it. We're looking for someone who sees this not only as a collection, but also that Masterworks. So the Masterworks is an interesting thing, because that's the one piece in the entire collection, which there's 7,000 pieces in that Masterwork. That's the one piece that will earn a percentage of Scott's yield on all of it. So think of it almost like a VC fund, but it's a piece of art.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a carried interest that comes, if you're the owner of that, if you're the holder of that, you're now getting a percentage of the yield of Scott's yield as well as your own.
And also the artists I partner with.
And every one of the artists that we derivatize.
It's like I wouldn't mind sort of investing in BlackRock's ETF, right?
Yeah.
And having a little piece of all that action. Not financial advice, of course, on the show at all.
No.
But really an interesting advancement in this technology, and super curious where things go from there. I know you're working on upcoming milestones towards the end of the year, having this ready to go.
Well, yeah, this is like I've already have probably about 8 artists that have created works. Great, and they're really cool. Some are big physical paintings. I'm doing a lot of digital, so it's not just the online thing. But so I'm building those out. So I have a whole series of those. I'm planning on doing a show here of all the things and the people I put on the moon, because a lot of my friends, all my rock star buddies, have no idea that I put them up there yet. So I'm going to invite them all over to see what went down. And then what's nice is all these works. I've got games in there. I've got all my games that I still own from the back in the day, the historic games of the Monty Python stuff, all this. And so these are all part of the bundle. So people be able to have access to this stuff also.
All right. We're gonna dig up some archives of NFTLA 1 and like you performing and put that on the moon. I wanna be with you in spirit on the moon.
Well, the other thing that Scott and I are doing is we're kind of taking the show on the road a little bit in a couple ways. So we've launched a thing called Space Camp, and it's basically a workshop that we'll be doing in different markets. We're looking at doing some in Latin America. We're going to be doing some in Amsterdam and following the conference circuit around, but literally doing similar things at Hack House, but then having these space camps where we work with other creators and we help them figure out their business model. We help them learn from the mistakes or the lessons of us taking his thing to market. And then those will also be billed. So those tickets, like when someone buys that ticket, then those workshop seats will also become an ordinal that has PEG on it, and that becomes valuable as just a takeaway beyond that. And so we're really going to push the envelope on testing how many different places where we could infuse Bitcoin into these tokenized real world assets, and then create circular economies.
Yeah, let me take Space Camp for a stance. Space stands for Story, Plan, Army, Conversion, Execution / Education.
All right,
So
well,
it's a
let's go.
business model. It's it's a business infrastructure for how to grow your business. So, I don't think with Space Camp, the main thing for that is there's so many businesses now that are about to get disrupted like they have no idea. And how do
They
I
already
deal with
are.
it? Well, right. And so he's very heavy in the AI space. I've been focusing on the sort of the tokenomics area. And so together we're going in there to kind of teach. And then we're also taking my collection. I'm going to be taking the whole collection of all the art, all the pieces, all this stuff that we put in the mullet will be part of our event. And what we're doing is we're using the mullet business model as a way to use as a use case to teach what we're trying to do.
It's a mullet microeconomy for the macro mullet use case.
I love that.
For society.
Dude, that was good.
Yeah.
I've had a good that coffee this morning, it helped. But Scott, Chris, this is great. We're gonna have to sort of keep in touch and sort of on this journey. But where can folks go to learn more?
You'll be able to go if you want to learn about the mullet. You go to the name of my project is MyMoonEXP, MyMoonEXP.com. So you can go to MyMoonEXP.com.
You can also find it on bitfans.vip. So if you go to bitfans.vip, you'll see that's where we're distributing. We're doing all the social fi layer and all the fan engagement.
And if you're interested in learning more about the tech, go to Blockcity.
Blockcity.fi.
Yep. Well, guys, this is fun. Have a great show tonight, and keep on innovating. This stuff is what we love to talk about at Edge of NFT. Thanks for being on.
No, thank you.
Thanks for having us on, brother.
Great rest of the conference.
A quick word from our sponsors who's ready to navigate the cutting edge of tomorrow's legal landscape. Because at Zuber Lawler, they're not just attorneys, they're visionaries. With expertise in emerging technologies like AI, blockchain, and the metaverse, they're paving the way for you to seize the future. For mergers and acquisitions to IP, their selective team delivers strategic solutions tailored to the ever-changing world of technology. Join us at Zuber Lawler, where the future meets the law at zuberlawler.com. Back to the episode.
What's up, everyone? Richard from Edge of NFT here with TJ Miller.
This is Richard from just beyond the edge of NFT.
That's right, man. I'm here with comedian
Thanks for having
TJ Miller. Thanks for being here, man. We're at Bitcoin Nashville, and we ran into each other actually at Synthopia's event last night, and you were on stage talking with Crypto Megan about something that you just dropped on Ordinals with your comedy. Can you just tell everybody a little bit more about that?
Well, so what I'm finding out more and more is that within the scope of even this fairly niche conference, right? Because most people in the world don't really know what Bitcoin is. Ordinals themselves, which are inscriptions on Satoshis that aren't, they're not NFTs, but they are. They have the security and immutability that Bitcoin has, but they have a lot of similarities to non-fungible tokens, are even more niche. So what I did just to kind of test the market and the appetite was I dropped 300 editions of my 3 best tour posters, and those are live right now. And we kind of want to see, like, do people understand that there is a NFT, artistic, creative, entertainment component of the Bitcoin network, and how present is that, how front of mind is it for Bitcoiners? Because, I mean, we are surrounded by and living in a Bitcoin universe right now, which is awesome. The Ordinals drop is kind of me saying, like, Bitcoiners, like, be aware, this, instead of feeling archaic as the Ethereum blockchain has, like, done what it's done in the NFT space, it's here. It needs to be built, awareness. Anyone ever heard of this? We need mass adoption. So, that's kind of in a way I didn't realize it, but that's what I'm here to do, is be the face of Ordinals at the conference.
And you're doing that in a lot of ways. Like I saw you back at NFT NYC for the first time, and that's where I found that you were actually in this space and it was super interesting. And, obviously you're now here. Things are getting way more official with the Bitcoin ETF passing with, potential president.
The Ethereum ETF is, everything follows Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So what's bizarre is that Ordinals are coming second, and Runes also, but Ordinals are coming second to NFTs. So Ethereum sometimes says we have these use cases, and I'm not dogging on Ethereum. What I'm saying is, it says we have much more use case. We're further along than the Bitcoin network, and then we find like, well, then Lightning comes forth, and now it's ordinals. It's like it needs to be Bitcoin, and this is what I was talking about with my wife, Kate, today and yesterday. Bitcoin is cool. Ethereum is really useful, and there's a lot of use case to it, but it's not as cool. And so ordinals have this great opportunity right now to swoop in and be cooler because of the scarcity.
And I think that's why it's taken over. Ordinals is coming in a big way. We went to an event in Hong Kong recently in Libsyn.
Oh, really? What did you think of that city?
Oh, bro, awesome.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah. I appreciate you being here at Bitcoin Nashville. What are you looking forward to for the rest of the week? And as we look into the rest of the year, like what's your alpha, right?
So I went so hard, so late last night that I am upset that I didn't get here to watch talks at the conference immediately. But I'm in my suite, just listening to, I immediately got on Mara's live feed, and I'm just listening to, I'm just excited. For me, what's so interesting is to hear all these maxis, because everybody here is a maxi, whether they admit it or not. It's so interesting to just hear what people have to say, the theoretical to everything, but it's also kind of befuddling that no one really is interested in talking about ordinals.
No.
Because the main use case for Bitcoin is this geopolitical, monetary revolution, this empowerment of people, all those things that we love about it, right? That's why we're all here. But I'm here to say we have to build off of this blockchain. Otherwise, we're going to get labeled as a dinosaur. So I'm excited for the growth of ordinals, right? And inscription and what can be built on top of that. I'm excited to meet people that are excited about the space. I'm excited to make those relationships and kind of figure out how we can bring awareness and build. And I'm excited to talk to people like you who are doing their part to sort of expand awareness. And I think it's what I was saying, and I want to hear, actually, I'll ask you. Sure. We need a balance here of mass adoption, which we all want, and then keeping the spirit, the philosophy, the Bitcoin of it all alive.
Yeah.
And engendering and growing that. How do you think that balance is going right now? How do you think we're going to make that work?
So El Salvador is one of the greatest use cases that's ever happened, where they basically made their reserve currency into Bitcoin, and now their GDP is almost doubled in a matter of years. So, and one asset of why do people get into Bitcoin is for the freedom. It's for the security of monetary value and potential appreciation versus what their own reserve currency could be and can be taken from them. So now you're saying, okay, cool, I have this thing, and now I can do all these cool community things too. I have ordinals. I have this thing called runes. I have that extra community piece is gonna come even stronger. So I think the initial buy-in of what Bitcoin ultimately stood for already draws the people in, and now you're adding all these cool things on top of it. I think it's just going to continue to snowball down and be this powerhouse that people want to be involved in.
So Hobie, now I'm going to ask you the tough question that unfortunately I have to be asking to everyone except for the Winklevoss twins.
Okay.
Because I love them and I respect them. Do you believe in or care about democracy?
Do I believe in democracy? Yes. Do I care about it? Yes.
It's weird how you said but in between those two things. And I'm not making the butt of the joke. I am fascinated by if people here are going to forego democracy for Bitcoin and for the strong and beautiful philosophy that it is. Because that actually, even though no one's talking about it, that's going to be the real question of the weekend. Thank you for having me, man.
Hey, appreciate it, TJ.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
And now for a quick word from our sponsor before we dive into the next segment. Are you ready to take your sports predictions to the next level? Look no further than maincard.io, the fantasy management platform that's taking the blockchain world by storm. With Main Card, every card is a ticket to excitement. You can predict sport outcomes, trade cards in the marketplace, and challenge opponents in thrilling weekly duels. And don't wait. Head to maincard.io now and start earning rewards with your NFTs because it pays to be early. And now back to today's episode.
What's up, everyone? Josh Krieger, co-host of Edge of NFT, live in Nashville. It's been an adventurous day. Trump just laid down some of his policy points to a packed crowd. And now we're blowing off some steam and having some games at Game Terminal, thanks to BitLayer, who powered this amazing event and this podcast. And we're having some great conversations. Right now I'm here with Yago, who is a core contributor to Sovryn. We'll talk a little bit about that. It's the biggest DeFi platform on Bitcoin. And then he's also the CEO of Bitcoin OS, and they just had some big breakthroughs. So lots to cover. Great to have you on the show.
Great to be here.
Where are you based, by the way?
All over the place.
You're a nomad. I'm trying to pick up where the accent's from.
I'm originally from South Africa.
Oh, cool. Right on. It's one of those places on my bucket list to visit.
Well, it is an amazing place to vacate.
Definitely we'll go by there. But also amazing place right now is the Bitcoin ecosystem. There's so much happening. You've been in this space for a long time. What's your perspective on this year in Nashville in the current moment in time in the Bitcoin ecosystem?
My view is that everyone is new to Bitcoin again. Like, this is an opportunity for everyone to basically get in early. And what I mean by that is Bitcoin is transforming right now. It's becoming a totally new beast in two ways. First of all, the fact that we have, on sort of like the macro level, all the politicians talking about it. It's starting to become a credible asset. It's got the ETF. It has now become a mainstream asset for the first time. And now that means there's huge potential for growth because you're early to that. Then the second thing is we're seeing a massive number of developers, projects, builders who are gearing up to turn Bitcoin into not just the largest chain and the largest asset and the largest brand, but also the largest ecosystem. Partly because of the technology that we're introducing, and because of the amazing amount of excitement and developers who are flooding into the Bitcoin space, Bitcoin is getting rollups, it's getting smart contracts, it's getting scalability, and it's going to be competing directly with Ethereum and Solana.
Do you think there's a different energy at this Bitcoin conference at this moment with the elections looming, with the sort of Ordinals movement than there has been at previous Bitcoin conferences?
Yeah, absolutely. The Bitcoin culture right now is going through a massive change, right? If, everyone who remembers Bitcoin from 2 years ago remembers it being boomer coin, toxic maxis, all that nonsense. That's become like a niche within the Bitcoin space. Now, Bitcoin is about innovation. Bitcoin is about mass adoption. Bitcoin is about innovation and technology. And we're seeing tokens of Bitcoin. We're seeing rollups in Bitcoin. We're seeing ordinals in Bitcoin. And, ordinals is a perfect example. Bitcoin went from zero to largest NFT chain and most valuable NFT ecosystem in the world in 6 months. That's the power of when new opportunities and technologies are added to the world's largest chain. And we're starting to see that happen in category to category after category.
Yeah, Charlie had a keynote speech, the CEO of BitLayer, yesterday, where he flashed the ecosystem that they've built in just a so short amount of time. And it covers the whole gambit where, you could have been the Polygon ecosystem for what it's worth, because so many folks are sort of hanging on for the ride and trying to be part of this movement.
I think what's happening is people who, like the insiders, people who have a little bit of foresight, they look at Bitcoin, they realize that it's getting all of this new technological power, this new innovation, and they say, holy crap, this is the biggest opportunity in Bitcoin. This is going to be the narrative going forward because, even without smart contracts, without scalability, without ordinals, Bitcoin was, larger than all of the tokens and all of the DeFi and all of the assets in Solana and Ethereum combined.
All right. I think Trump quoted the 9th largest asset in the world.
Yes, and in crypto, by far the largest asset. So when you think about that, it's a massive blue ocean opportunity. It's like this huge space massive potential resources, and right now almost no one's exploiting it. So people are rushing to be the first projects to exploit that because everyone wants to be the Uniswap, the Polygon, the whatever of Bitcoin.
So with this type of environment, partnerships are critical. They're always critical in business, especially in a burgeoning industry. But I think particularly at this moment, I know Sovryn, where you've been a core contributor for a long time, has a partnership with BitLayer. Maybe you can kind of talk about that partnership, the significance of it, and some of the other partnerships you're working on at Sovryn.
Sure. So maybe I'll give a quick introduction to what Sovryn is. So Sovryn was the first significant DeFi project on Bitcoin and has become the largest DeFi platform. And it's become an ecosystem of applications, including trading, BTC-backed stablecoins, money markets, borrowing and lending, with billions traded and lended. And that was all before sort of the explosion that we're starting to see in layer 2s and overall projects in the Bitcoin space. So what's been happening now is projects like BitLayer and other sort of significant players in the space have been reaching out to Sovryn to get Sovryn to deploy on their Bitcoin chains. And so that's sort of how the partnership with BitLayer has emerged, right? They're seeking to bring more significant user base, DeFi activity TVL, and they've reached out to Sovryn as the largest current community and ecosystem in the space for that.
That's great. And of course, you want to support all the different players that are trying to create more volume in the space. So it makes perfect sense. And what is the volume on Sovryn right now, and how has that sort of evolved over the past year?
Well, I actually don't know right now what the volume is. Over the last couple of years, there's been billions traded. And one of the reasons I don't know is because as Sovryn has expanded now to multiple different chains, I'm sort of getting out of date with my facts.
Can't say what you mean. It's moving so fast.
Yeah, that's crypto for you, you know. I mean, when things start moving, they move faster than you can.
We have to round to the nearest billion at this point.
Yeah. I think this is also a really big moment and opportunity for Sovryn. Sovryn was built because the people who were building Sovryn had the foresight to realize that the biggest opportunities really lay in Bitcoin because it was the biggest asset, but also the least utilized. And the bet that the Sovryn community made was twofold. One, that building out this ecosystem would pay massive dividends when Bitcoin started to grow an ecosystem. But two, that by building this out, we could accelerate the process of Bitcoin getting an ecosystem. We would be able to prove that there's an audience for it, and that would start to galvanize more projects and more builders to come into the space. And that's exactly how it's played out.
Makes sense. And of course, like many folks in space, you wear multiple hats, and you're wearing a big hat right now as CEO of Bitcoin OS. Tell us a little bit more about the genesis of that initiative and where you're going from here.
Yeah, so several years ago, we started to realize that zero-knowledge proofs, like a new form of cryptography, was getting much, much more sophisticated all the time. And that if you sort of charted the trajectory of where that technology was going, it would allow us to do things on Bitcoin that we've never been able to do before.
Let's define zero-knowledge proof. We've done it before, but I want to hear your definition.
Sure. So if you think about cryptography more generally, cryptography is the mathematics of secrets, right? And so when you're using Bitcoin, for example, even the simplest thing, right, just sending money, what you're actually doing is you're signing a transaction with your private key. So what you're actually doing is you're showing that you have a secret key that no one else has. And by proving that you are the owner of the secret, the network understands that you have the right to move the asset. Now, zero-knowledge proofs are an additional layer of secrecy. They say, I can prove to you that I know something. I can prove to you that I have a secret without revealing to you what that secret actually is.
The analogy that I use, and curious what you think, is like you right now in America, you go to a bar, you have to show your license and to verify your age. But they also get to find out your address, your license number, your weight, your eye color. They should just be able to sort of scan something, not know anything actually on there, but just get the yes, this guy or this female's old enough, they can come in and they don't have a criminal record. So yeah.
So
right?
that's a great example, right? So instead of showing someone your card, you put it under a thing, it flashes green. They don't know your name, they don't know your age. They just know that you are valid.
They know enough to proceed with a degree of trust that's acceptable for that type of exchange.
Right. So the trust is perfect. It's just specific. Now, what does ZK do for Bitcoin? Right? What does zero knowledge do for Bitcoin? What it does is, with zero knowledge, Bitcoin for the first time wakes up. It opens its eyes. Because now, up until now, Bitcoin has been blind to anything happening outside of the Bitcoin network. You can make a transaction in the Bitcoin network, but if you, wanted to, tell Bitcoin the price of Bitcoin, Bitcoin wouldn't know its own price because there's no way to get that information trustlessly into Bitcoin. That's what ZK changes. ZK is like giving Bitcoin eyes to the world.
A brain or just eyes?
Just eyes. The brain is the miners. It's just eyes. So now Bitcoin can start to see what's happening in other networks.
Okay.
And so when, a lot of people have heard of rollups on Ethereum.
Yeah.
That's basically what a rollup is. A rollup is a different chain that Ethereum can see.
Nice.
Okay.
I might have to steal this analogy in the future because people ask this question all the time.
Yeah.
You broke it down so elegantly, so I appreciate that.
So why is it important that Bitcoin can now see these things? Well, because what it means is that I can, let's say I want to do scalability, right? I can do a huge number of transactions, and instead of putting them on Bitcoin, I just show them to Bitcoin. And then they can get secured by the Bitcoin network because the Bitcoin network processes them, but it doesn't have to hold them, right? So now I can do huge numbers of transactions not on Bitcoin. So I can fast, cheap, high throughput. Same thing with privacy, right? Let's say I want to do a private transaction. I can just tell Bitcoin that the transaction happened, but I don't need to say who it went, like your ID example. And then maybe the most amazing thing about this is I can have a new chain, which is has all the power of Ethereum, right? It's a roll up to Bitcoin. It's right. It's an
L2, to
L2, right?
Yeah.
But it's EVM compatible. So it's like a smart contract thing. And now I can show those smart contracts to Bitcoin. And because Bitcoin is a system designed to record and secure information, by showing it to Bitcoin, I'm actually securing those transactions as Bitcoin transactions. So now Bitcoin gets scalability, it gets privacy, it gets smart contracts. And what that means is that builders in the Ethereum ecosystem, or Solana, or Polygon, or BSC, or whatever, they're building for a relatively small network. Now they can do the same thing, much bigger network, much bigger user base. We're basically bringing everything back to Bitcoin.
Great. And so that sort of gave you the impetus to start Bitcoin OS?
Yeah, but to make... So for example, like BitLayer as an example. So BitLayer is another chain. But right now, Bitcoin cannot see it. It's not action secured by Bitcoin. It's its own thing, right? So it wants to be, it aspires to be Bitcoin Layer 2, but it can't. The breakthrough that we presented at Bitcoin Nashville is that we actually, for the first time ever, on mainnet, gave Bitcoin eyes. And we actually, for the first time, further information, revealed to Bitcoin information that didn't happen on Bitcoin. And in our particular case, what we did is we moved BTC and we moved an ordinal on the basis of things that were happening off of the Bitcoin chain. Now, this technology is so valuable because there's so many projects. There's BitLayer, there's 80 other projects that want to be Bitcoin loans. And what Bitcoin OS can do is actually act as a platform that gives Bitcoin the eyes to turn all of those into from layer 2 wannabes into real layer 2s.
It's pretty exciting.
I think that, I was saying, it's like we're all early to Bitcoin again. This is the second reason we're all early to Bitcoin again. Because Bitcoin as a beast has changed. Like, I say the 900-pound gorilla, it's opened its eyes, it's woken us.
So give me a sense of how many developers and how much time it took to sort of create that program.
It took very few developers, about 3 years. And the reason it takes very few developers is because rarely do cool, groundbreaking work. You always never need a lot of people. You just need a few really strong people.
You have to be a surgeon.
Yeah.
It's like if you're doing a really complex surgery, it's 1 or 2 surgeons in the ring, but
that's right.
The tail of work.
Yeah.
So what's next?
So what we now have is we have a DevNet where we're proving how this can be used to actually create a Bitcoin wallet. And in a couple of months, we're going to release the first production-ready testnet. And then soon after that, we're going to introduce to the world, we're going to give birth for the first time to a true Bitcoin rollup. And then I think that's when things start to get really interesting. That's when the fireworks happen, because that's when Bitcoin is going to start competing directly to a degree with Solana, but more importantly, with Ethereum.
And what's the monetization model for Bitcoin OS? How do you sort of sustain what you're building?
So that's actually there's several ways. The most important is that by providing this technology, we're effectively able to earn transaction fees off of all of the transactions.
Is it open source or closed source?
Open source and closed.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So the transaction fees.
Yeah. So basically, now you're going to have a huge number, whole ecosystem of rollups. So I think you can think of it kind of like Optimism for Ethereum or Polygon for Ethereum, right? They create a lot of rollups, but they take transaction fees from all of them. So Bitcoin OS is kind of like the Optimism or Polygon for Bitcoin.
Very cool. Well, congrats on the breakthrough.
Thank you.
And exciting what you're up to. If folks want to learn more and go down the rabbit hole, where do you recommend that they go to check out more about Sovryn and Bitcoin OS?
So Sovryn, you go to sovryn.com. That's sovryn.com. For Bitcoin OS, it's bitcoinos.build. And you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Edan Yago. So Edan Yago on Twitter. And I try to keep people follow me up to date and all the stuff happening in Bitcoin.
I'm going to follow you. Thanks, Yago, for your time.
Thank you very much.
This is a great interview and really fascinating what you're up to. Hopefully educational for our audience. Talk soon.
Thanks.
The views and opinions expressed on Edge of NFT reflect solely those views and opinions of the show hosts and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. Our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. From time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of those links. Refer to our website, www.edgeofnft.com, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, and privacy policy.